Okay, recording kicked off. Amazing. So I said this last night as well. So in the absence of having round 8 pictures from a graduation, I used the ones from the previous round. So this is probably going to be how it's going to look like next week, but even better because Lisa is organizing everything. Lisa, yeah, you can also share all the information about the graduation next week. I'm not going to share anything yet. So yeah, I just added this slide just to kind of put a spot on the backgrounds where our mentees are coming from. So we have mentees in this round coming from fashion design, digital media, marketing executive, graphic design, computer science, interaction design, UX design as well. We have only a few of them. And in terms of the project, so in this round, we had more than 50% of real client projects. So out of 9, we have 5 client projects and 4 real life projects. So they're still based on real problems and everything, but they're not briefed as a they're not briefed as a real kind of client project. Just a quick glimpse into how we invested in each mentee. So each mentee got at least 360 minutes of one-to-one mentoring. This is based on the assumption that mentees had a minimum of 30-minute calls in these past 12 weeks since we're running the program. Also, in terms of group presentations, also around 360 minutes. Breakout rooms, 180 minutes, 2 sessions, and mentee clinics, we had around 70 minutes of these. Our mentors in this round are coming from WorkHuman, Deloitte, Brown Thomas, Digit, Grid, Finance, Cisco, Teneo, and VHI. Some of the program outcomes. So we had altogether 9 mentees enrolled and 8 mentees finished the program. So that's a completion rate of 88%. And that's it, short and sweet. Let me know if you have any questions. And if not, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa.
No questions? No? Okay. Okay, then I'll go. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm the learning coordinator in Design SkillNet. I think I had something to do with most of the participants. So I hope you've enjoyed the program. And well, now, first of all, best of luck with the final presentations this evening. So as Valentina mentioned, we're going to have a graduation ceremony next Thursday. Between 6 and 9 at the Spencer Hotel in the Zen Garden. I presume, Valentina, you can send them maybe like details in writing so that they don't all have to take notes. And yeah, so it's going to be a nice way to kind of closing up the program, celebrating, socializing over some food and drinks. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you in person. So if you could please let know Valentina if you can attend by Friday, it would be great. But yeah, that's it. So looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hearing the presentations this evening.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Lisa. That was great. Yeah, I'm going to send the summary and all the information for the event next week. So yeah, if everyone is ready, Lola, I'm going to hand it over to you in your capable hands. And yeah, I'm going to put myself on mute now.
All right, so you guys are each going to get 10 minutes to present. I'm going to give you guys a 5-minute warning. So when you're halfway done, you're going to hear just the 1 chime. And then when you have 1 minute left and you need to start wrapping it up, I'm going to give you the double chime. And if anyone goes over 10 minutes, I'm going to have to unmute and tell you that you went over, you got to wrap it up. But hopefully it won't get to that. And the first person who's presenting is going to be Shane C. So whenever you're ready, you can just go ahead and start sharing your screen. And I'll start your timer. Are you okay? Perfect. Go ahead.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
So my camera's not working for some reason, but it might pop up in the middle of this presentation. Okay, so my project is called MyFridgeFood. So it is a redesign of a recipe app. And I'll give you a quick run through of what it's all about. So I think everyone in this call and in the world has had this problem. If you ever returned home from work, looked in your fridge and thought, I have nothing to eat. So this app I've used in the past and aims to address that problem. I'll just play a quick run through of the user flow. So it's an app basically that helps you find recipes using ingredients you have in your fridge or pantry. So as you see here, I'm just entering in everything I have in my kitchen and both my pantry and my fridge. And once I have everything updated, I'll click Find Dishes. It'll then bring me to a recipe list page. And from that, it'll show me what dishes I can make with what I have on hand. So there's the user flow, just kind of simple terms. There's very few steps in it. But yeah, I just noticed when I used it at first, there's definitely room for improvement. So I thought this is a good opportunity to redesign it. So my problem statement is how can we encourage people to cook at home more and reduce food waste? So the idea being a lot of people, when they're cooking at home, we have all these vegetables or spices that we've bought for certain recipes and we don't know what to do with them. But with this app, it helps to address that, and we can use up the produce and the stuff we have in our pantry. So I'll briefly go through the research. So in the research, I did competitor analysis, survey, and usability testing, so a mix of qualitative and quantitative. The research objectives, so for the competitor analysis, I wanted to see what works and what doesn't with more popular apps by researching reviews online. So I found some great reviews on sites like Reddit, but also the App Store as well. I did a survey, so the objective of that was to understand people's attitudes and behaviors related to cooking. Got a good few responses, around 40 people. And then for my usability testing, the research objective was to score pain points of existing user flow and test prototype iterations. So key insights. So number one, people get frustrated entering in every ingredient. As you could see, when I was doing it, it took me a long time. There's one quote I found online is manually adding ingredients always makes me avoid it. Number two, most users like variety when eating dinner. So this is from a survey. So 44% of them said they wanted to eat a different dish every night for dinner. And number three, users want more filtering options when picking a recipe. So one of the quotes from my testing was, I don't like that there's no filter to choose what meal I'm making. So no filter for making either lunch or dinner. So once my research was done, I began prototyping. Here's just a quick overview of the process I was doing it in. First low fidelity, then medium, and then finally high fidelity. Some sketches of what I was doing at the early stages. So just looking at the research and also the different apps and seeing how they're doing the different UI elements and seeing how I can improve upon. That's the three main screens that I was focusing on this project. So that's the home page there, and find recipes and the recipe info page. So there's two main steps with this user flow that users were complaining about. So number one was entering the ingredients. It's time consuming and often people didn't want to enter in every single ingredient they had. And then step two is applying the filters. So once you enter in all your ingredients, you're given a lot of different recipes, combinations, and the user was saying that they were getting an overload of information. And to have some filters would make it a lot easier. So once I started my prototyping, I did some usability testing with 2 people. So this is for step 1. I was doing some paper prototypes. So seeing how I can split the ingredients into categories. The current app is just listed from A to Z, so it's very it's managed. It's kind of all over the place. So I was trying to group the ingredients by protein, carbohydrates, veg, and fruit. Step 2 was applying filters. So again, trying to I tested this with users as well, seeing what was the best way to add filters to get certain recipes. For the user feedback, the users would like some direction when first opening up. So this is from my early testing. I didn't have any instructions at the start. So one user said, I'd like some prompts and I need to explain what to do. So second one was scrolling across for categories, which preferred over scrolling down. So when I was looking at competitor apps, they were stacking the categories one on top of each other. But then if you meant that if the user wanted to just add in fruit, they would have to scroll all the way to the bottom. So I introduced scrolling across in a carousel. And number 3, users assumed ingredients would be in alphabetical order. So when I gave them a task to do, they thought that the bacon would be beside beef mince. Again, grid view was preferred over list view for recipes, so it's easier to see the images, and they're a lot bigger. And then when the filter page was popping up, they were looking for a return button instead of the X. And then certain language didn't make sense when applying filters. So I originally first put in time, and when the user said it should be saying cooking time. So I began iterating then once I had got all that feedback from my initial testing. So I was kind of testing as I went, each small detail, see how good it would work. So these are some of the changes I made, and did make a lot of changes. So we displayed the categories in the carousel, so users can scroll across, not down, to find the categories. Listed ingredients from A to Z. Display the prompt on homepage to guide the user what to do, and also display the recipes in grid view. But the imagery was important. So once I had that down, I was then beginning to wireframe the app. Started looking back at some competitor UI research, HelloFresh, Just Eat, etc. What kind of sizing they're using for their buttons, text, images, etc. And I use this new tool, Motif. I don't know if anyone's used it, but it's an AI UI tool. So I gave it a prompt and it gave me these screens gave me some ideas basically on what to, how to style this homepage and certain screens. So final prototype, I'll give you a quick run through. So this is the task on the left. So I'll be adding chicken breast, eggs, carbohydrates, pasta, and rice, across the vegetables, garlic, and fruit, boiled lemon, and cooking find recipes, and then adding filters. So changing it to dinner, cuisine, changing it to Greek. And then for cooking time, 45 minutes. Once that's done, then choosing a recipe. And that's the recipe. So conclusion. So my main learnings was testing early and testing often. Found that the paper prototyping worked really well for this. Oftentimes, you think you need a full working prototype before you can test it, but in this instance, I learned even testing small stuff like button size can be done with paper very quickly and a lot quicker than I could do it in Figma. Assumptions aren't always correct. You always have to back them up. I had a lot of assumptions going into this project specifically with the survey as well, with the answers I thought I was going to get back. And yeah, I was definitely surprised by some of the findings. And yeah, paper prototyping is definitely quicker. With a project like this, it's done in the evenings. You can get really bogged down, I suppose, trying to learn different programs, Figma and stuff. But with paper prototyping, it's a lot quicker and faster to test and iterate. If I was to do it differently, I would make the survey more specific, I suppose, for the app. I felt the questions were maybe a bit too broad. It was good for a complete redesign of the app, but for this certain user flow, I could have given more specific questions. If I had more time, yeah, conducting more usability tests with different users. The usability tests I was doing was only with 2 people. And I didn't have time to test the final prototype. So that would be the next step, is to test that, get some feedback, and implement it as well. Some additional features that I was kind of thinking of while doing this project, but again, didn't have the time to implement them, but I feel like they would work well, would be linking the likes of Tesco app to MyFridgeFood, so the users have all ingredients inputted automatically. Possibly suggesting recipes with items that are about to expire. So, like if you have egg or chickpeas and spinach, the app give you push notifications when those items were going to expire, and give you some ideas on how you could use them. And yeah, number 3, probably calculating the costs of a meal and comparing that to what you would pay for either a takeaway or eating out. So you could show how the chicken curry that you just made is €3.15 per serve, but that would be €12.50 at a local restaurant. And yeah, I think that would just encourage the users as well to maybe cook at home more, to show how much money they could be saving. And that's me. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Shane. So now if you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, all of that, just raise your hand and I'm going to call you guys in order. Well, we can start with Valentina. You can cut the line. Go ahead, Valentina.
Thank you so much, Lola. No, that was amazing, Shane. I love the entire flow, and I do remember your project from interim presentations and everything, and it does seem that you really made a lot of progress. I loved how you started like with sketches and then moving to low fidelity and then to mid fidelity and then to high fidelity. Like no one does that anymore, and it's amazing. And it's also great that you're seeing such a huge value in that. It's been ages since I've seen like a proper paper prototype with moving papers and testing in that way. So that's fair play to you. Like that's really good. I love that you mentioned how you use AI tools to give ideas. So Motive, I think, was the name of the tool, and I think it's really cool that you can feed it with competitors and then it can give you some ideas. Like definitely something that can reduce your ideation phase. I love the ideas that you had for your next step. So suggesting recipes with items that are about to expire, that's very good. And it also kind of relates to your problem statement that you had, like cook at home and reduce food waste. It did seem that you focused on sustainability, which is exactly what that is. And also calculating cost of meal and compare it to takeaways. That's a really good point and a great idea. So all in all, a great project. Well done. That's amazing.
Great, thank you.
Amazing. Sorry, before we move on, I just wanted to let you guys know that Zoe has joined the call. She's a recruiter at Morgan McKinley, and also Martina from Round 7, Menti graduate. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know. But yeah, now we can move on. Thank you so much, Lola. Thanks, everyone. Well done, Shane.
Go ahead, Ricardo.
Thanks, Lola. Shane, you know that I absolutely love this project. So I'm so glad to see where you've gone with it. And I'm excited to give you feedback for it because I think to me, it's like this low-tech, high-tech thing, like the cassette players you see now that do the Bluetooth, but they still look old school. Like this thing is great. It just has a really fun vibe to it. So a couple of things I would say is when it comes to your presentation, really, I loved your slide format. That was really good. You just had a clean set of slides. Your biggest enemy is when you put copy on your slides, because then you end up reading it. But when you didn't have copy, you were really great. You just like summarized it and skimmed over it. So just a good thing to remember, I think, when you're doing it. I thought it was good that you showed the demo. You may even want to think about recording it, because then you can just speak to it and you won't have to be so distracted by running it, because it is fun, so you could kind of just get into the vibe of it. And the other thing I wrote down was I love the added features, just like Valentina said. And maybe, you could even just kind of mock that up. Don't even feel like you've got to make it work, but put it in there, because I think that just sets it to the next level. That's really good stuff. And the other note I made to myself was thinking about targeting it to a younger audience might be another feature as well. Like maybe you could even have a switch or something where it's like there's a kid-friendly setting to it, because there's something really kind of cool kid-friendly about it. And I think that's why I love it. It feels really versatile. I think you've done a great job, man. Really well done. Congratulations.
Thanks, Ricardo.
All right, Hannah, you're up.
Hi, Shane. You should be really proud of this. I think it's a really well-structured kind of piece of UX work. I have to echo what Valentina said about the paper prototypes. I saw her smile and I smiled too, because your documentation of the fidelity as you went on was really excellent. But the little video was just such an engaging way to communicate that stage of your usability testing, which I just thought was a little treat in this presentation that you rarely see. And we rarely get to do in our professional careers, so it's really nice to see that you got to do that. And I echo as well about the additional features. That shows really strong UX, like strategic thinking about where this could live outside of the limitations of this program, because you obviously have to kind of be smart and economical with your time and what you can get done. But seeing you thinking about all of those things outside of it is like really strong in terms of the potential for the project as well. And I think, yeah, I just echo what everyone else has said. I won't speak any longer.
Thanks, Hannah.
Go ahead, Alessia.
Thank you. Hey, Shane, just coming in as well for congratulations on the project. We already looked into the project together in a few of the meetings, so I really don't have much more to say on that, but I really wanted also to congratulate, because you really went far. And I wanted to second what Ricardo was saying about the slides. Really clean, super easy to follow. So very well done with that as well. And you know how as I told you also last time, in your slides, it's really clear, or in your process, it's really clear to see how you really follow the user's feedback to develop your system. And that's so important. And so again, like really well done. Not much more to add, but I really wanted to tell you this because it's a great project. So yeah, very well done.
Thanks, Alessia.
All right, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah,
Zane?
thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just add, well done, Shane. That was a brilliant presentation. It's been great working with you over the past few weeks and seeing you. I'm so impressed with how much iterative testing you did throughout the whole process, and you can really see in kind of the clear direction you took in solving your problem. And just sort of other things I was really impressed with throughout the past few weeks, how passionate you were in trying to create the perfect solution. There was so much that people didn't see in that report, and that they're making a report and all the work that Shane put into this project, and your eagerness to learn so many different UX methods and practices, even if they weren't necessarily relevant to the project. You were just so eager to learn and gain as so much knowledge as possible. So well done. It comes out in the final prototype. Brilliant work.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, great job, Shane. Our next presenter is Shane D. So whenever you're ready, go ahead. And again, I'll give you a 5-minute warning and then a 1-minute warning.
2 seconds, sorry, just trying to share the screen here.
No problem.
Thanks, Lola. Okay. So let me just go into present mode. My project is on redesigning the MyVodafone app. I've been doing it with Peter Mullen, and Peter has been fantastic throughout. He's given me, as I tell him all the time, gold nuggets left, right, and center every week, every time we're chatting. And yeah, he's definitely gone above and beyond on Slack to keep communicating as I've been doing this. So thank you, Peter. So yeah, to just give you a quick snapshot into the whole process here, I'm going to talk about the beginnings, the interim research, and the design process, etc., that I went into. And then I'm going to talk about my usability tests, the results, and then I'm going to get into my iterations, and then finally my conclusion. So just to give you a bit of a brief, this was kind of talked about earlier in my previous presentations, but Vodafone have 2.3 million customers, which accounts for 30% of subscriptions. They're the second largest telecommunications network in Ireland, and they're responsible for 28% data consumption. So this is a very visual overview of the interim research that I did. I did some preliminary research before I got into the user interviews and persona development, etc. Just going to talk about that first. So the early research that I did, I found on the Google Play Store, the MyVodafone app showed that there were payment failures and top-up payment failures at 25%. There's poor navigation and accessibility at 20%. And there are some quotes around those particular pain points. And what I did at that stage, and this was the advice of Peter, which I found very helpful, was to create a hypothesis on what I wanted to do from that moment onwards. You know, before I did any user interviews or usability testing, and that was really helpful because it guided the test, the focus of the test. It allowed them to be testable, so my assumptions were now testable. I could connect the pain points directly from the research to the design, and obviously I'll be able to validate my assumptions. So the key findings then from those early interviews and usability studies, tests I should say, were that users wanted speed and simplicity, navigation clarity, they had accessibility issues, they wanted payment flexibility, and they wanted better trust and support. So then I moved on to the develop phase. Apologies about this here. This is kind of blurry there. It shouldn't be. So I moved on to my user journey maps. The idea here was to take the opportunities that I identified through my user journey maps and then sort of kind of link them up with the themes that I just discussed on the last slide, just visually to show the sort of thread of evidence. And then from there, I was able to develop my how might we's. So then after that, I got into ideation and prioritization. I used some crazy eights to develop my first ideas. And then I plotted all of those ideas on a prioritization matrix, impact on user and effort to implement. And that allowed me to then really narrow down what I wanted to focus on for my paper wireframes and paper prototypes. So yeah, my paper prototypes and wireframes sort of, I was able to further my design ideation at that stage. I'm just looking at it there, looks very, very messy, but I hope you get the point. I got into my digital wireframes there, then it looks a lot cleaner, I guess. I would have used Google's material design as a sort of starting point for components and sizing and fonts and stuff like that. And I found that very helpful to do that. And so then these are my designs. So I've given a before and after for each screen, and I've got quite a few, so I'm going to try to do this quickly. So in red, you can see on the side here, these are the prioritized themes that I identified, you know, in red and green. The greens are sort of goals, and the reds are pain points. So I'm not going to get into the quotes, but basically I was trying to target the accessibility issues found in the original app here on the left, and clear it up on the right. So, you know, I will read one of the quotes. So sometimes there's too many icons and emojis. They're not easy to read by older people. So it was clear that this persona, it was actually Philip, the persona Philip, had a lot of issue with overwhelm and clutter on the home screen. So that's why it's a lot cleaner looking on the right. And there was other stuff like what is 4G and Wi-Fi. So this type of information here as well was unclear. So I tidied it up with a lot of accessibility and font changes and things like that. Then speed and simplicity was another theme. So I wanted to actually bring the top-up experience immediately into the home screen. Currently, it doesn't exist on the current app. It's actually the second step, which I'll show on the next screen. But that kind of went into the idea of reducing steps, which would ultimately lead to speed and simplicity. So the next screen then, this is the second screen that I'm referring to. So a quote there, I always go for 15, but the way it's laid out makes me second guess. I can't just enter in the amount I want. So over here, we've got the presets, which I just mentioned, but we've also got an enter specific amount, which obviously helps that user. And it also ties into the other theme of navigation confusion, because it just simplifies the navigation. Users actually wandered off into the more options section here, and that caused a lot of confusion for them. So the next screen, I'm kind of going to talk about that a bit more. Yeah, so I don't know what other word you could use instead of more options. So you could say that's an accessibility labeling issue, but this comment here is kind of says otherwise. I don't think it belongs here. I think it's hidden, and I think it's just strange. So what I decided to do was on the home screen to create a side sheet modal that pops out. So it doesn't take the user out of the main flow of the app, keeps them grounded in it, and they can access all the features that exist here anyway under that button, under that next step. So that's that basically. Let me see, next step. Okay, so the payment process is 3 steps currently at the MyVodafone app. So I was able to actually reduce that down to 1. Why it's 3 steps is because, you know, if you're a first-time user, you'll need to add a new card, and that's the kind of premise for my project is looking at it through the lens of a first-time user. So you'll have to add a new card, and you go through the process then on the second step. When you get to the final step, it's sort of a summary screen. And one of the main characteristics that users got back to me on was the save card function, that they enjoyed, they valued it. So I kept that in mind. So on the final screen, I have it here. I've retained that feature, but I've also reduced the steps down to 1, because it offers better payment flexibility, speed, and simplicity. It zones into the accessibility issues, and it also reinforces trust and feedback. So there you can see there's multiple payment methods offered. There's GPay, there's PayPal. I've improved the accessibility by showing the credit card types. For example, there's only one way to pay. That's unusual. It doesn't actually tell you either what kind of cards it accepts to indicate you can use Visa, MasterCard, etc. So that. So then the before and after for the confirmation screen then is, you know, the labeling was unclear. There was accessibility issues with it. And just to clarify, am I 5 or 10 minutes in? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you've done about 9 minutes.
I've done about 9 minutes. Okay, got to breeze through this quick. So yeah, this is the before and after of the confirmation screen. You know, really, this was an accessibility issue. So I tried to improve hierarchy and clarity. I tried to better provide feedback on the transaction, and I tried to give better clarity and context on moving back to view balance. So, you know, back to, you know, what Peter had drilled into me about, you know, my hypothesis on getting good metrics before and after. This is what I found. So people found the app easy to use. There was a change of 0.6 on the metric. I'd like to talk about this more, but I haven't too much time. They felt confident, more confident. They understood the labels and instructions. They completed it quickly with no delays, and payment process frustration was also decreased. Time on task metric, then there was a 47% overall reduction. The first iteration was 1 minute and 39 seconds. And before that, that was 3 minutes and 7 seconds. So these are some of the final designs that I made. But I'm not going to go into the full detail there of all the changes I made because of time. But you can see there briefly, there are a few new changes that I've made. So the main learning, so all users found the top-up process easy. And this kind of goes back to my usability test metrics, really, that screen. So they're my kind of main learnings, really. I'm taking them from the system usability scale that I developed there. So I won't go into this too much more because there's not much time left. But what would I do differently? I'd like to test paper prototypes with 1 or 2 users. It's very important to get early feedback. I'd like to be a bit more assertive with scope, and prioritization is very helpful there. I'd like to gather more quantitative data from surveys to get an idea of how it scales up, not just from the qualitative, you know, nucleus of 5 or 6 people that I interviewed. And then the next step, I'd like to test it with more targeted users, validate the design and iterations that I made, and obviously, you know, have some collaboration with developers would be great to see how that goes. So thanks a million, and apologies for rambling on it there at the end.
Thank you, Shane. We're going to start with Rob. Go ahead.
Sure. Hey, Shane. That was really good. I think I've said before that I think in an earlier presentation you had kind of that statistics, and you'd done like work with like the Central Statistics Office stats to build stuff. That's excellent, and I think I really like the kind of stats slide that you started off on. I think it set a really nice context. I think sometimes as designers we can kind of forget like why we're doing things, or like the target of what we're doing. So that was really good, just setting the stage. I think generally you have a very clear way of moving from one point to the next. Every slide you kind of left off on a you know, a proof of an argument, and then you would sort of move into the next slide. So that worked really well. You called your paper prototype messy. I had written down just before you did that I really like messy paper prototypes. I think they're supposed to be messy, and my notebooks, sometimes I look back through my notebooks and they look unhinged. So I think like that's what they're for. And it's great to see that level of thought like annotated on top of them. So I definitely think I think it's a benefit that it's so heavy with notes and stuff, not anything to be worried about. The main thing is I think the breakdown of your design changes is excellent. And I think everybody on this call should take a leaf out of Shane's book in how we do that. And I will be doing that. I just think having the before and after, I think sometimes when you work in a project for so long, you get so fluent in it that you forget why you change things, or you know, it's just better. And the design is better, Shane. Like everyone, like as soon as you put it up, I thought it was like the other way around. I assumed that your designs were the like production app from this big company rather than you yourself doing it. They were excellent, but more importantly than that, you just explain things really clearly. You'd labeled things, you'd sort of called your shot and made it, which is just excellent. I really think that is an excellent format for showing design changes, particularly high fidelity ones. And I think yeah, like and then the run through of that statistically, I know you were kind of flying through it at the end. I think you did well to kind of, it's difficult when you're trying to like decide what to skip. You're sort of editing on the fly, but I think you did a good job. And I think focusing on statistics at the end was the right choice. I think showing that kind of, here are the improvements, even just the fact that they're all in green, you're sort of going like, yeah, it's cool. That's all good. So, yeah, I think I don't have a lot of constructive criticism. I think maybe in that payment step, you could space things out a little bit. You don't have to fit it all onto the screen at one time. I think you could probably do with just giving that a bit more breathing room. But otherwise, I have nothing. I think it was excellent. And yeah, thanks for taking us through it. It was great.
Thanks a million for that feedback, Rob. Yeah, with the payment screen, that was actually, I scrolled down to take that screenshot. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, it was actually bigger, but that's amazing feedback. Thanks a million. Really appreciate it.
Valentina?
Thanks, Lola. So yeah, just to echo everything what Rob said, I actually made notes here saying that your paper prototype was very detailed, and then you said it was messy, and I was like, no, it's not messy, and I made a note for that. So yeah, absolutely, like, you know, paper prototypes are great. Also, I like the approach of, not everyone does this, but having, like, looking into app and Google Store reviews and quotes, like, that's a really good way to get insight into what real user problem is. And then, you know, beyond the fact that maybe these problems are like the app is buggy, like it can be something really constructive. And I thought you made a really good shout when you took accessibility issues and decided to focus on that as well, because that's a really hot topic now with a new act coming up in June. I love hypothesis on what you want to do at the beginning of your process, ideation and prioritization, and using matrix for that. That was great. And yeah, usability survey metrics and areas of improvement. It's really good to see something in numbers at the end, just to conclude your case study and everything. It's a really good way to kind of connect the things and see how powerful your redesign was. Well done, Shane. Thank you for walking us through your case study. Just one thing, did you have, sorry, I just realized now. So in your previous presentations, did you have Peter's photo there? And I thought, like, there's something missing in your presentation.
Yeah, I just, one of the things I thought of there, I really should have Peter's photo there. But you know, you're talking about the usability and the hypothesis and the metrics. Well, that a lot of that was built into me through Peter. I would have to, you know, give all credit to Peter there. That's something I've really learned. You know, that should have been in my main learnings really at the end. So yeah, just all hats off to Peter for that. So.
Well done, guys. Well done, both of you.
Ricardo, go ahead.
Peter, I think you needed to distribute more gold nuggets. Perhaps your picture would have been there. Saying that I'm not as intelligent as those two people that I'm following. Rob is always amazing when he gives feedback. I would be frightened to work for him. But I can tell you one thing, and that's, I've seen this consistently. You're a very good presenter. You've done that from the very beginning. You're really, you know your topic, you're confident, and you speak with confidence. And it comes through in your work too. Your work looks confident. So I think you should, you know, be proud of that. I love that you spoke about the learnings too, because that makes it, instead of just someone talking about a case study, it becomes something more interesting. It becomes, you know, this is what I went through. And this is what I got out of it. So I really appreciated that. And again, kudos to you. Yeah, I think you've created a great case study. And I hope you continue to be able to present and organize your thoughts the way you are, because I think it's well done.
Thanks a million, Ricardo. Yeah, I've been nervous as hell the whole process. So today, I mean, like the last 10, 15 minutes. So I don't know where you're getting the confidence bit from.
Well, it doesn't show. So I think you spoke in a measured manner. Your work shows that you've really thought it through, and I think you've done a great job.
Well, thank you. Thanks a million.
Rebecca, go ahead.
Thanks a million. Well done, Shane. That was a brilliant presentation. I always love listening to hearing you talk. I think you're brilliant. And wow, like I was really, really impressed by that. That was amazing. And yeah, just I'd be probably repetitive from what everybody else has said, but Yeah, to echo what Valentina said, you did your analysis of the App Store reviews. That's something that we do in our jobs, as Val knows. But not only that, you actually quantified, you know, to try and figure out what are the heavy hitters in terms of the usability issues. You actually, like, you had proportions of what related to navigation or tech bug issues. And yeah, I was really impressed by that you went to those lengths, I suppose. I thought your slides were beautiful, really on brand. Completely agree with what Rob said and related to your visual design skills. I think you're excellent, and it actually looked like Vodafone, well, but a lot better. They could take a leaf out of your book. I thought the way you presented was really clear. So I like that you included, you know, user quotes, whatever you were referring to each of your screens, and your before and after was really effective, and how you annotated your designs. And what came through really strongly for me was how you kind of used your initial research findings to set redesign goals. So I think you had speed and simplicity, payment flexibility, and trust and feedback. And you kind of justified or explained each decision you made and how it tied back to your goals, which were informed by the research problems that you identified. So I thought that was really effective, actually. I followed exactly what you were saying when you were talking through all of your designs. I'm just trying to remember now anything else. Yeah, you started off looking at the payment flow, but you discovered issues well beyond that. So you touched on accessibility and language and labeling. You actually touched on information architecture, so the findability of different areas within the app. And so you did go, I know you were worried initially that you wouldn't have enough, but you went above and beyond to find the issues, and you made it more than what you initially set out to do. So I was really impressed by that. And I think you're just really genuine, really sincere. And I like your and Peter's relationship. And yeah, as I said before, I always like hearing you talk, and your presentation skills have really come on. I know that was another thing you were kind of a little bit worried about, but I thought that was excellent, and that was your best yet. In terms of anything to improve, so it was great to see metrics, and excellent for your case study to show your before and after. I think what would be really great is if you could just explain them a little bit more. So you did a survey before your redesign and after your redesign, by the sounds of it, if I'm understanding that right, just to make that really clear in your case study. Also, you mentioned time on task. What task was that? Was that the top-up flow? Just a little bit of clarification. You also kind of mentioned SUS. Was that in the survey? But maybe that will just become a little bit clearer. But yeah, you really went above and beyond, and really enjoyed that, and enjoyed listening to you throughout I'll stop talking now. But yeah, well done.
Thanks a million, Rebecca. Yeah, about the SUS, yeah, it's, you know, full transparency here. The questions that I asked, I tried to kind of craft them around the themes, and you're not meant to do that. You're meant to use the standardized questions, you know, the system usability scale questions. And because the way I approached it with the themes, they were kind of, it knocked off the polarity of the system usability scale. I think it's the polarity is meant to be positive and negative. And that, you know, a full disclosure there, I had to use sort of a mean score. So it was the mean scores of both, but both sets of questions, for survey questions, were exactly the same. So the mean score did improve, but I can't say it was an actual system usability scale. Yeah, if you get me. Sorry.
A great one for your learnings as well, Shane. If you want to come to
good point. Yeah.
It shows you're capable of reflection and saying, look, I didn't do that absolutely perfectly, but for the next time I will. And yeah, it's great that you're even aware of that. So yeah, fair play to you.
Thanks a million. That's really great feedback, Rebecca. Thank you.
Next is Sean.
Brilliant presentation, Shane. There's not a lot else I can really add, but I'll just reiterate a few kind of points that I feel are worthwhile. So like your before and after slides really are brilliant. I think they're a perfect way of showing your learnings from your research, as well as the changes made in your solution. You know, even had you identified, were very clear on the issues that you're trying to solve, as well as the quotes that were quite impactful. And then yeah, the benchmark score and the use of UX metrics, you know, it really is the most impactful, makes the most impact to product stakeholders, and kind of is the best way to persuade decision makers in, you know, product teams, in my opinion, is those kind of UX metrics. You know, not every UX survey has to be the system usability scale when you're benchmarking, as long as you're using consistent wording like you did. That's all really that's really needed. So it still is valid. System usability scale is brilliant, but I wouldn't fret too much if you decide to change the wording, as long as it's consistent among the two tests. I love your solution. I thought it was a lot clearer than the current solution. I think anything that distracts from the task at hand is really not necessary, and a good kind of approach with a lot of options, which you did, even sort of moving the more options out of the direct top-up flow and moving into, I think, more kind of that dashboard view before you enter into it. I think that can be quite impactful and just less distracting for the user. But brilliant, well done, great presentation.
Thanks a million for all that feedback, Sean.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, congratulations, Shane. I won't talk about the project because lots of people have mentioned a lot of positive things about it, and I think it was great as well, great presentation. But just to let everyone know that Shane was so committed to learning it, or learning throughout the process, and it was really evident in all our interactions. What's not obvious from, well, it might be somewhat obvious from the presentation, but also there's a lot of work that Shane did, a massive amount that's not shown here. He approached every stage and activity with enthusiasm and just this kind of want to be critical and seeking to validate his choices at each turn. So that was really good, really commendable. I think you've learned a ton, Shane, and in particular about that in a UX project, no effort spent in terms of research or trying different activities is wasted. You were able to call back on all the research or activities that you had done when it became obvious it was going to be of value, and it really was. I think throughout the project, you tried to kind of find that connectedness and what you were doing so that you could move on to the next step with confidence. And I think you created a really well-resolved solution to a lot of interaction issues on that Vodafone app. So at the end there, you just mentioned your learnings, and you said being more assertive would be one of them. And I think that really comes with experience. And again, having completed this work will really be of benefit for you in the future. So well done again.
Thanks a million, Peter. And, you've been a great help throughout. So just thanks again for that.
All right, thanks, Shane. Next presentation is going to be from Laura. Whenever you're ready, just share your screen and I'll start your time.
Is it? Yeah,
Yep.
is that okay, Poco? Yeah. Okay, cool. Right. So the project that I have been working on with Anna as my mentor is SITA's AMS web interface. So what is AMS web, you may be asking? So it is it's sort of the web version of SITA's airport management system interface. So they have like a thick client desktop version. This is the web version that users would access through a browser. And it's primarily used by operations staff within airport control to check resources and plan events accordingly. So the initial problem that I had identified was the UI was just really outdated. So functionally, it was okay, like it worked, but it was made 15 years ago as a proof of concept by developers, had no designer input, and it's kind of pretty much stayed the same. So as you can imagine, there's a lack of kind of consideration for user experience, which leads to kind of an increased likelihood of users feeling frustrated or overwhelmed. And also it increases the risk of mistakes being made, which nobody wants. And then from a business perspective, it's harder for SITA to justify the value of the product to customers when it looks like a legacy system. And just to kind of illustrate, this is what it looks like. So going into the discover stage, kind of main research methods I did was I sat down and had a stakeholder interview / discovery meeting with the product owner. So he gave me a walkthrough of the system and we discussed kind of customer requests to do with it. And I was able to ask questions and get answers as well. And then also I did kind of a user / customer survey aimed at understanding how users interact with the system and their experience with it and any kind of frustrations or challenges. So the kind of key discoveries that I made at this stage was that some customers only have one login option. So what I mean by that is, so the kind of standard login has kind of both an identity provider option and a local login, but some customers only would use one of those options. But when it only shows one option, it just looks a bit clunky and it's not really clear what a type of login it is. So then another discovery was that there's different use cases. Some users say if they're like working in arrivals within the airport and they're walking around, they will print out their the view and so that they can have it on the go. And then other times you'll have somebody maybe in baggage, they're out on the grounds and they're not going to want to bother with like pages. So they'll just suffer through the mobile view that's not optimized at all. And then kind of the biggest issue was there's a frustration with loading times. So just to kind of illustrate that, you've seen the login. The login basically, as it is, takes you directly to the stands allocation Gantt chart. For context, the stands is kind of, it's basically like the parking space where planes are sat from arrival to departure. And so this, as you can imagine, depending on the airport and how like busy time of year it is, like that's going to be a lot of data. It could take like anywhere from like a couple seconds to like a good like minute of waiting. And if a user doesn't want to go see stands first, they want to see carousels or chutes, they have to wait for that information to load before they can actually go to where they want to go. So one thing had been brought up before was that they had a customer request for having something like what they have for the ClipFix client or the desktop for the web, which is this dashboard with like a navigation menu at the top that takes you to the specific dashboard. So you're not waiting for something else to load first. And then other research I did was benchmarking, although in the market that it is, these kind of airport management vendors are very secretive. So it's hard to find like up-to-date information about how they look. So I looked at kind of other products that have kind of similar maybe Gantt charts or designs like music editing software or like project management software. And then I set up like a card sorting exercise to just identify kind of how to categorize those menu items and just to figure out how to lay them out. And then so for the design stage, what I had done was taking the information that I had at that point, I made a user persona for operations staff and kind of all the tasks or the responsibilities and goals and pain points. And then I did also a user journey, and my jobs to be done then was when I'm coordinating arrival events, I want to view the tracking grid and relevant resource allocation schedules so I can ensure resources are in place so that arrivals run smoothly. This scope was very large at that point, so I kind of needed to be realistic and take it back and do a prioritization metric. So I kind of met with the product owner again and looked at kind of what was kind of feasible from like a development perspective and compared to that to like how much value it would add. So even though like a complete system UI redesign would be like great, it would take a complete overhaul of the front end development, which wasn't really feasible at this point in time. So instead, turn the focus more towards the entry flow and really kind of trying to relieve that load time frustration. So then going into the develop stage, I had done kind of an entry flow. So going from kind of when the user enters the website to where they reach their desired dashboard. So the way that they log in, and then looking at kind of the home navigation, and then they select their dashboard and then the loading screen. And I also considered kind of error states as well. So these are kind of the initial kind of iterations that I had for login. I looked at kind of different layouts and as well as some error states. And I also looked at kind of thumb zones for like mobile to make sure that it was kind of optimized for those users on the grounds. And then an airport selection. This is kind of initially I had looked at that as it was, which was like a separate page. So this is where like customers with multiple airports would select a specific airport that they want to go to. And then the homepage, I did some different iterations for that as well. And I also looked at kind of how you would customize it per user. And then I looked as well as the loading screen, and I kind of I explored two different options, whether you could give like a realistic progress estimate or kind of no estimate. But then after kind of looking into it, I really the best way was to make it seem like it's making progress, even if it isn't. And then so I did, based on feedback, I did kind of further iterations, kind of looking at sort of reducing steps. So one of these was kind of getting rid of the airport selection page and just having it as an drop down at the top. And then as well, having maybe dividing like category filters for if there's lots of items on the homepage. And then as well, for like less than like 4 or less identity providers, having them as kind of chips or pills on the login. And then another big aspect of this project was kind of refreshing the actual iconography. So I kind of first I sketched out some different kind of ideas, and then I kind of got feedback from people at SITA and decided on which one was best to go with. And then I kind of decided which ones to kind of develop further. And then so for the deliver stage, the first thing that I did was kind of set up my styles. So the color or the colors palette that they had for the original system is based on the SITA brand 15 years ago, which is not how it is now. And also orange featured heavily in it, which obviously orange is kind of closely associated with warnings. Even in the SITA like brand guidelines, it's that their orange is for highlights and warnings. So I took that away from the actual primary and secondary colors and replaced it with this blue and yellow as a secondary color for that's because it fits in with the actual SITA colors. And then I also kind of looked at type hierarchy as well. So I'm just going to go into a quick demo now. Oh no, that's not it. Okay, hold on, sorry. Yeah, is it? No, that's not working. Okay, hold on.
No worries, I can stop your time.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what's going on here. I think I need to change the page or something. Oh, it's working. Okay. Just needs to load. Not actually. Okay. Sorry, it's. Sorry about this. Okay, right. So this is kind of, so just to give a quick demo of it, this is kind of what the login would look like. Decided on kind of having it towards the right, and then having the customer be able to add kind of an image to that page just to add more kind of their brand identity. And then, so this is kind of the identity provider with the pill options. And then this is kind of the local login, and this was what it would look like if there was kind of, if you entered something incorrectly. And then this is kind of what the homepage looks like as kind of a default for like administrators who need to see everything. So this is kind of like the categories that they can select for it. And then I'm going to go in here. And this is be sort of like for a specific kind of, like say, for a baggage handler in this case. And this is kind of what they would see. And this is if you needed to change your airport, you would select it here. And then this is kind of if you wanted to customize it, you can like turn off the quick search or the category filters, and then you can also like remove certain things from it if you they weren't really applicable to you. And then if you click on, this is the loading screen that you would see. So I've got a plane and then some kind of flight related messaging, and then so that's kind of that. Sorry. I don't know what's in here. Oh, okay. Okay, all right. And then, this is what kind of mobile would look like as well. And then I've got a dark mode in the works as well. And then I've usability testing in progress at the minute. I've kind of sent out like a maze test just to make sure that everything like the airport selection and the customization menu is all kind of intuitive. And then so my key lessons that I've learned is how to design for complex systems. I couldn't have had a better mentor for this project in Anna. I've learned so much about complex systems, and she made this project really approachable, because before I probably wouldn't have wanted to touch this kind of thing with a 10-foot pole. And then a lesson I learned, kind of, if I were to go back, I would try and be more assertive. Kind of, I had to work through SITA to get feedback from users. So I think if I were to go back, I didn't really want to come off as pushy or demanding, in case they wouldn't actually let me get any feedback. So, but I think if I were to go back, I would have communicated the importance and the kind of value of getting user feedback, and I would have set deadlines so I would get it and have less trouble getting it. And then I would prioritize earlier. I think that would have been helpful. And then what's next? Obviously, when I get the usability testing feedback, I'll make changes and then do more. And then as well, I'd like to do kind of a survey just to get user kind of more opinion-based feedback from users about the redesign. And then as well, like if I could, don't know how feasible it is, but I'd love to do kind of a system UI redesign. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Laura. It looks like Alessia, you're gonna go first.
Yeah, I tried to be super fast so I could beat everyone on that, because Laura, that's an amazing project you have there. I just wanted to commend how amazing it is you took such a complex and niche project, which is everything but a junior project. And the fact that in your key learnings, you actually even highlighted the fact that you are now feeling more confident on, tackling complex projects. That's an amazing experience, and it definitely, you can see it from your presentation how in depth you went with your project itself, and how you already faced some of the challenges that you will find in the market. So that's really absolutely precious there, and so really well done with that. You also went above and beyond with all the UI, which definitely connects with the fact that you were working on a complex project, but even the fact that you set up the basics for a design system. That's amazing. Like when you face complexity, together with all the methodologies and process of research, thinking also about how to make that consistent. It's really something amazing, and it shows that you are thinking really broadly about the project. So really well done, above and beyond. Congratulations with that. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ricardo.
I can't believe my Jeopardy skills got me to ring in next. Laura, it's so great to see that project, and I've seen that you go through so much with it, and wow, it really turned out amazing. And your interface that you came up with is brilliant. You took all of that complexity, and you took a lot of the feedback that I think you've heard, and you just really put it all together. And I just want to, say kudos. This is one of the things that makes UX Tree really fun, to see someone take something really complex like that, kind of really tweeze at it and almost have to do dental work, and then kind of get down to that thing that you built, which was great. So I just want to, acknowledge that you've taken an enterprise level of design and applied a lot of rigor to it, and it turned out really, really well. So you should be very, very proud of it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sean.
Well done, Laura. Like everyone said, it's incredibly impressive that, taking on such a complex product, but also focusing on desktop and taking the time to consider the mobile experience as well. I think very good use of card sorting tests to help you understand kind of the information architecture of such a complex navigation. I like the way you use the prioritization matrix. I think with such a complicated project, can help you kind of focus on what to prioritize on, really consider your next step before moving forward and anything. So I think that was a really good option. If I would be interested, this is the first time I saw the project, so maybe you said past, I'd be interested to see a bit more of the demo of how the current solution works, just to help better understand the changes you made. I know you had kind of the screenshot, but just more out of kind of curiosity. And I guess things to consider maybe in future iterations. It's because it's just such a highly important application. You obviously don't want to make any mistakes as a user. I would consider maybe better clarifying the filters that the users selected, so they're aware of what filters they made within the options, just in case they have an understanding of what they're viewing within the app. And you might have touched on it, maybe not in the prototype, but in your designs. But with the multiple options for login selection, I'd make sure to clarify which login selection they've made on the username and password screen. I'd be concerned that they'd be trying to log in, type in the username and password, keep getting errors, and they're just not aware that they've accidentally selected the wrong login entry points. So just make sure to clarify that aspect. But absolutely brilliant. I thought it was fantastic. I'd love to work on a project like this. It's so interesting.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, Laura. So I've been able to watch this project come on. I think we've ended up in the same breakouts a couple of times. So the first thing I want to call out is how good your storytelling has become on this, because I think sometimes when you get a project like this or a brief, it's so difficult to like bring people on board because no one has any experience of it. They don't, like, most people don't even know someone who might use it. So I think you've gotten a lot better at explaining that. I think you've gotten better at breaking down the business impact of the bad UX as well, because I think it will be very tempting to just look at what's there and just kind of go like, yeah, like obviously it looks crap, so I'm going to make it look better. But you've stayed quite disciplined with actually having or tagging a business value onto that. There's an awful lot to fix in the original thing. And sometimes when the entire UI is outdated, it's very difficult to rein in the scope because it all looks like bad. You can't just have like one section of it looks like lovely. You see companies do that sometimes, but it's quite confusing. So I think you had a really big bite to take out of this, and I think you did a really good job. I'm sure it was a huge amount of time pressure, but I think it really comes from your ability to prioritize. I think is driven from your understanding of the user, which I think is really deep, based on even the insights of, like, I remember when you told me that people were printing it out and bringing it around. You don't get that if you have a surface level understanding, if you skipped out on research. I think the attention to detail on mobile and things like thumb zones is great. That shows a real understanding of the user as well in context. And I think the choice on the homepage and the customization, the iconography is just, I agree with almost every choice you made. And I think you made an awful lot of good choices for how little time you had. And I think my favorite part is the loading screen. That was great. I'd seen like the wireframes and I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that in the final deck. So I think that's really good. And then all kind of surprise and delight aside, it's just practical. Like, it's great. I was reading. I couldn't tell you how long I was waiting for it because I was just reading all the little things coming up. I think there's a real benefit to that on the user experience. So yeah, look, really well done. The last thing I'll say is, you mentioned a wish to be more assertive with an external client, and anybody who has ever worked in agency will tell you that being assertive with an external client doesn't always work. Sometimes people just have other stuff going on, and it's certainly not any failing of the designer to, in getting prompt feedback. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. And really well done for the amount of engagement that you clearly had. I think that's something you should be very proud of. So yeah, well done. Really good.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Valentina?
Lola. Yeah, just to echo what everyone else said, great project. And originally I remember you pitching this project in February, and I thought, oh my God, like this is going to be very difficult. And also like finding the people that you're going to test with, you're going to have to find real users and everything. But the way that you approached it and the way that you tackled everything, like this originally wasn't meant to be like a real project, but you made it so real, and also interviewing stakeholders, finding real problems, and taking it beyond just like project execution where you were just focusing on like problems, but like even changing the icons, rebranding, changing styles, like taking care of unhappy scenarios as well that you had on your login screens. Like that's really, I really didn't expect this. So fair play to you. Like you really covered everything above and beyond everything what was asked for. And yeah, fair play to you, Laura. Really such a complex project and such a great work.
Thank you.
And before we move on, Anna, do you want to say anything? If you have any feedback for Laura? Okay. All right. Thank you, Laura. Next, we're going to go to Harp. That's going to be our last presentation today. So whenever you're ready, Harp, just share your screen and I'll start your time.
Harp is on mute.
Okay, so I wasn't the only one. I was hoping for
I just
someone.
wanted to make sure you're not presenting.
Hi, sorry, here I am.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see my screen all right, and if I flick, I'm kind of working on two screens, so I'm going to be looking one way, but I'm still here. Okay, so my project is based on auto enrollment. I've worked with the lovely Alicia, and she's been really helpful and taught me a lot about the real world of UX research and design, and I appreciate it very much. My project is based around improving the conversion rate of auto-enrollment, of the auto-enrollment pension campaign that yeah, I'll just go ahead on in, and it might explain more. So what is auto-enrollment? It's a government initiative that basically, if you own a small company and your people don't have pensions, you will be obliged by the end of September to have a pension in place for them, and the government will make you go through their system. And basically what the company I'm working for is doing is trying to help people understand that they can do this in a more tax efficient way for them, as in the government's way isn't necessarily the best way. Who are Empowered Money? It's a finance company set up by a guy called Shane O'Toole. This is the homepage of his website, and this actually is Shane. Once I finish this project, I'm going to come on to speaking to him about the design of his actual website. I'm actually just working on the one auto-enrollment page at the moment. I feel he needs to maybe move this on a little bit himself. But yeah, he's specifically targeting people who need he's specifically targeting pensions through the auto-enrollment initiative. So the project goal, as I've already mentioned, is to improve the conversion rate of the auto-enrollment pension campaign. And it's basically, this is a little preview of the page he has at the moment, and it's to just get more consultations booked so he can speak to more people and sell more pensions. I started working with him in October of 2024, and there's more to the project, as in they've got Google Ads involved, and they did a 5-week campaign. They only got 1 call, they got 2 bookings, they spent 1,300, and they weren't really too pleased with that. The challenges they face are that they're new to the market, so they're not as well established as their competitors. And obviously, because of that, people don't really trust them as much. The user goal would be, therefore, to help the user to find a more tax-efficient solution to auto-enrolment. And their business goal would be to attract and increase more bookings and effectively just sell more pensions. The target audience is small companies, CFOs, CPOs, and HR people who would be gathering this information to present to their CEOs. I'd be using the double diamond method, as we've been doing across this kind of mentorship program. So stage 1, discover. As I say, it's the bigger project at hand, but as we were to focus on one particular thing. So it's to look at the layout of the auto enrollment page and to make changes and suggest changes from now till September. I did this through, doesn't want to present anymore. Hang on. I did this through using qualitative data, well, site analytics data, using observational user testing, and also speaking to the stakeholder and getting analysis from him. The qualitative data told me that there was no specific platform that users were using. There was a good mix there. Even though we're not focusing so much on the Google Ads side of it, they spent 4K in total at the end of the whole thing, and 2 to 3 consultations converted to a sale. I did some usability testing with 5 users, and 2 out of 5 wanted to call, and these had finance backgrounds. Others were looking for more info. They wanted to see a guide, or they weren't ready to talk until they understood a bit more. There was issues with the page layout. People were saying that the language was misleading. They're using the word regular, I won't even try to say it again, but the language doesn't really mention auto-enrollment or pensions as you immediately land on the page. And again, there was the CTAs were talking about getting started, and people were a bit like, well, why? What am I getting started with? The stakeholder, came back to me, and he let me know that 12 sales had been made. Again, it was finance people who were more confident calling, and that the cost per customer, in the end, it ended up being a 40k profit. And therefore, the customer conversion rate so far is 3.3k, which is something that I would probably look into further down the line as I put my project together. So the next steps were to do some empathy mapping, define the personas, and use a prioritization matrix. I took the 5 users down to 3 groups and did some empathy mapping. My 3 personas, one of them was a HR consultant, the other was a new business owner, the other person was in a finance role. This HR person was busy, they didn't want to waste too much time talking, they wanted information. This guy wanted to see more about reviews and clear information, and the finance person wanted just more details on how it would affect them to administrate their pension. The first 2 were very clear about saying they wouldn't book a call. The third was very confident about booking a call. Again, they wanted more, the first person wanted more details for presenting to a high level. The second was looking for more touch points, like an email rather than a call. And yeah, the finance person was always more positive about booking a call and just wanted more details. The challenge for me then became, how do I convince these two personas, or how do I educate them to be more like the finance persona without obviously them having a finance background? I then used the prioritization matrix and basically gathered all the key points that I was getting, pain points I was getting from the testing, and plotted it out into 8 points to try to help me design up the next stage and look at what the main points were that were coming out that needed to be addressed. And I plotted them. It broke it down to the fact that the people who weren't financially, those that weren't financially clued in needed more information. They were looking for reviews and case studies, and they wanted to email first rather than call. People that always want to speak straight away. So then I went to how might we educate non-financial users, present the information architecture more clearly, and then provide them with some solutions to give them, to help them learn at their own pace, to give them confidence to book, and maybe put some reviews in. I think the reviews will come in time as the company obviously grows as well. So the next stage, the development stage, was to look at competitors who was doing this, presenting this kind of information better or clearly. I also was plotting out the 8 points more specifically as to what needed to be done first, and sketching or reordering of the website as it is. So I started to reframe what's already there. So this is the current site. He's actually put a video in since, but I'll address that later. Due to time constraints, I wasn't able to put a very detailed Figma piece together, but also I was only addressing one layout. So I've kind of just broken it up across these slides. The 8 points I have highlighted down the side. So for starters, I changed the heading. I added in the fact that it mentioned auto enrollment. The deadline was there. People had said they'd consider looking at a downloadable guide or a video. I've kind of adapted the video, put it up at the top, given people an opportunity to look at it if they want. Here, a lot of people were also saying that they wouldn't maybe book a consultation straight away, which was the first CTA originally. So I've broken it into 2, giving priority to finding out more, because it sounded like more people wanted that, but then also giving the option to the third persona, not forgetting that person. Again, a lot of people liked this block as they went along the site, and I've moved it up further. Now, I haven't tested it exactly as to whether it sits on the fold, but if it doesn't, I'd be moving it up a bit more, because I do think it would then help with a double job there for capturing people's attention, because as it was once raised, is that HR people are busy and they've probably got a few tabs open, and you need to kind of get them fast. Scrolling down, I then decided I came across this lovely solution of how could you break down information for different groups of people, and I kind of found this accordion style, which would, maybe it doesn't need to be specifically written like this, but it just kind of gives people the option of, if you fall into this category, this would be more useful to you. I've also added another option for emailers rather than call. And then scrolling down again, I just changed some of the imagery. People were saying that the imagery was quite stock-like and not very warm. So I I've done that, and also added in a case study there for someone who might want to have more in-depth knowledge on what he does. And then the frequently asked questions, it's a small thing, but there was a lot of information there. I just cut it short, but it's the other points are more relative and more connected to what I've researched. Another consideration is the European Accessibility Act. It's again something I need to check on. At first glance, I would say that the branding he has on his site is pretty well done, but it's obviously something that needs to be considered in design, web design going forward. So I've still to do more of this part of stage 4, more user testing. I actually did a little bit of user testing, and the first thing that was raised was the word pension wasn't in the heading, which I've already changed, but I have more tests to do. I would then adapt the design accordingly with more iterations, and then hopefully eventually present these findings to the stakeholder and apply the design changes and track their progress, and obviously put a nice case study together based on it all. In reflection, how might I measure the success of this once it's all finished? Is bookings, are people making any more calls to Empowered Money? Analytics, what does the data say now? Are people staying on the site? Are they engaging with the page? And then conversions, is it, you know, although it's more Shane's work at the other side to convince them, it'd still be good to know that people have converted into sales. And that's it.
Thank you, Harp. We'll start with Valentina.
Yeah, that's me. I'll go first. Thank you so much, Harp. You did mention to me previously that you won't have your full project done, but I think you did a majority here of it. So well done. Fair play to you. I think you gave us a really nice background of what the project is, what your project is and what Empowered Money do. Your slides were amazing, and I really like the kind of fact that you approached it from more kind of product level, where you compared tracking sales and also versus Google Ads, how much each customer is worth and how much money we need to spend to get some money in the company. I loved your challenge as well, because you really focused on like something really beneficial on how can we educate people to kind of come to, from the stage we're at now to the stage where they can be like, someone from finance, or where they can understand our products. So that's really good. And also love the how you use prioritization matrix to basically prioritize jobs to be done that you want to put your focus on. I liked your mock-up and the feedback that you had attached to kind of all the things that you've done there. I think that's very beneficial also for your case study as well. Definitely something that you should include there. And also what you mentioned about the European Accessibility Act, definitely something that will make your case study much stronger. And also at the end, you mentioned the ways to measure success. I thought that was really good. And it's definitely something that you will include in your case study and pay attention to once the project is finished. Well done.
Thank you.
Great job.
Rob?
Hey, Harp. So I think I saw this at the end of the last round. And yeah, I think it's a cool project. I think landing pages are a funny thing, that they're almost as much copywriting as they are design, and you sort of don't realize that until you're in the middle of it. And definitely, I don't think you've like shied away from the copywriting, which is great, because it informs everything. It's like you said, they didn't have the word auto enrollment in the headline at the start.
Actually, it is one thing I did mean to put in, and I've just written it down just before you spoke, is that I would engage a copywriter at the final stage just to make sure certain things are correct. But yeah, thank you for raising that.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those, it's a funny kind of a chicken and egg thing, where when I've worked on landing pages in the past, sometimes there's all this language that you have to put in your design from the jump. But then that language, you might think as a usability as sort of a user experience designer, that introduces usability issues. So it's this sort of it's a difficult balance to do, but I think I'd advise anyone working on it to just take ownership of the language on a landing page until you're told to stop taking ownership of it. Like marketing will roll in at some point and be like, that's not on brand, and that's fine. But the design is the words, I think, with that sort of thing. So I think you did a really good job with that. And I think from the start, you've told a clear story of what's going on. I think there's a really clear goal here with conversion. There's a great context as well with that SEO campaign and how that didn't yield the results that they wanted, and that's what launched this. I think that was really good. Clear target users as well that you fed into the personas. I think you kind of carry those personas through as well. I think sometimes, and I'm definitely guilty of this, we can sort of do a persona and then we go, great, and then we go and design something for ourselves. But I think you pointed out a few things in the design of like considering, persona 3 here and persona 2 here, and that's really good. And yeah, I think in terms of measuring success, one of the things you've brought to this is a bit more of like a funnel. I think sometimes, landing pages, they like swing for the fences. Like every CTA is like, call us now. But that's not how most people work. Most people they have a first look and they go, okay, grand, and then they take it away and they do a bit more research and then they might engage, but they'll do that on their own time. I think with the kind of like downloadable guides, the videos, things like that, you're actually kind of constructing a funnel for them, and that will make it much easier for them as a business to like, okay, well, we can see that we did this ad and it led a load of people into the upper funnel, but then actually we just didn't convert them on the page, and so we need to change something on page. So I think that's a really good way of looking at success and considering that in terms of the analytics and tracking and stuff like that as you move forward. Yeah, look, really good. Great deck as always. Like it's always really clear. It's clear story. It's well designed. Landing page, really high fidelity, and the deck looked great as well. So yeah, really well done. Thanks for taking us through it.
Thanks, Rob.
Dave, go ahead.
Oh, Dave, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry about that. Hi, Harp. You're probably wondering who the hell I am. But I was a mentor in previous rounds, and I've just come in to see if the standard has improved, and it clearly has since I took a break. So well done. I thought that was a really nice project. I'm just curious. I have a question about your recording of conversions from Google Ads. So did you get was it 2 to 3 conversions, or was it 2 to 3 leads that came in?
It was 2 to 3 leads that split out. That's what I was told.
Oh, right. Okay. That's pretty low, isn't it? Yeah. I was wondering if they were kind of, if you got 20, but they didn't convert.
No,
Yeah,
it was
okay.
2 to 3. And yeah, it was, and they were all finance people apparently as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Now, well done. I thought it was really good. I mean, I agree with everything Rob said. And particularly around the whole persona, how you really caught on to each persona and made sure each of them were kind of represented across the UI. So I thought that was really good. Well done.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Alessia, oh, I was about to call you. Go for it.
I knew that, Lola. So I came in, I just wanted to say again, Harp, has been so great working with you. And, we, most of the time when we are at these meetings and this presentation, we just see the final result, the end result, without seeing all the work that has been put in the back. And I just wanted to comment how great it's been, how great it is that Harp tonight you have come here and presented, because, life comes in, and as Valentina was saying, we know that you didn't have the time that you were expecting to actually complete this project, and you just coming here, you overcame the fear of perfectionism, of being perfect, and this is the first step of moving up to the ladder of a great UX career. Everyone wants to do their best, so everyone wants to provide the best work they can, and sometimes we know that we cannot do that for many reasons, and just being here and still presenting what you've done with all the knowledge that you have it's super great. And I think it's a great experience also to bring for the future. And to be honest, I can't wait for your project to be out and to be live so that you can see how it will perform. So I think, again, like you took a great project there, and it's really good that you're here tonight presenting. And yeah, like still time to put together your case study. But I just wanted to highlight that because, we just see the results and not the process in the back.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Alessia. Thanks. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you getting me here as well. So yeah, thanks so much.
All right, well, that concludes all the presentations. So I'll pass it to Valentina for closing statements. Thanks again, Harp.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lola. Thanks for everything. And guys, thank you so much for presenting. It's really good to see and to hear from all of you how you're saying like you had a great experience with your mentors. Like Laura, you mentioned that you learned a lot from Anna in terms of the complex systems and how you approach the project. Shane, you had really good words for Peter in terms of like research and the process itself. And also I assume Shane as well. I think he dropped off in the meantime, but he also mentioned he learned a lot. Oh no, sorry, Shane, you're here, but Sean dropped off. You mentioned that you learned a lot from Sean in terms of research, and Harp and Alessia, you're clearly a really good match in terms of like Alessia's background in finance and Harp's project that was very much related to finance. So well done, guys. Like I'm very happy to hear that you got the best out of it, and I'm super happy to see all the projects done in the best possible way, like way beyond my expectations. Thanks everyone who joined tonight. Also, big thanks to Dave who joined and for his feedback. To Zoe from Morgan McKinley, thanks so much, Zoe, and to Martina from our previous round as well. So yeah, going forward, I'm gonna send the recording of this session tonight, and I'm gonna give you some time for everyone who missed the session last night to watch it, and then you can vote. So I'm gonna give you maybe 2 days to complete the voting, or you're gonna vote for the best presentation, best project, best research, best prototype, best mentor, and best mentor-mentee duo. Just to flag that we're going to have a meetup on the 22nd. I mean, beyond the graduation celebration next week, what Lisa has organized. I'm going to send the details there. But yeah, myself and Zoe from Morgan McKinley are organizing a meetup on 22nd. Hannah, not sure if she's on the call. No, she's not anymore. Oh yeah, she is.
I'm here.
Hi, Hannah.
I'm here.
Sorry, Hannah will be one of the speakers, and a few of our previous mentors, Pranj and Anna from Microsoft. So we'll be talking about accessibility, AI, and UX, and the value of mentorship. What Hannah will be covering. So yeah, that's it. Hope I didn't speak too fast here. Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything, do let me know. Once again, thank you so much for joining. Well done, everyone.
Well done, everybody.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thanks, Valentina.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.